Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Georgia Testa, who is the founder of Studio 281. And we're going to be diving into confidence, courage, and building your own path as an entrepreneur. Georgia, it's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to even just have my name against something like what you've just said. Like, we love entrepreneurship, don't we? We love being able to have a space where women can come and find themselves and find that courage. So thank you for holding space like that.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, my lovely. And I'm so excited to dive into today's topic because I know you have got an incredible story to share, as well as so much experience that you can share with our listeners and support them in terms of courage, confidence, and quite simply, as we said, building our own path. So why don't we
100%.
start from the top? And it would be great to hear a little bit more about your story if you're happy to share it with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. So, I've never had a boss. I've never really worked a job. I've always been like self-employed and entrepreneur. I've always strived for that kind of can-do attitude, I suppose, of like I've wanted knowing what I've wanted to have and knowing that I was always going to find a way to have that. So I have a first class degree in dance and professional practice. I was a dance teacher, a secondary school dance teacher. And I remember getting my first job offer and basically saying, actually, do you know what? That's not for me. Like the money didn't really do it for me. And I wanted more. And I found a love while I was on my degree of exercise, basically. And exercise had never really been something that I was that interested in because I was so heavily invested in dance. But there was this module that we studied, which was like the science behind like fitness and all of that sort of stuff. And that was me sold. So off I went to train to be a personal trainer. And then in 2017, I opened my own space. So we were a gym with a spin studio, personal trainer there for that. I'd done 2 years working in a big box gym, saved every single penny that I'd earn and was able to open my own facility at the very tender age of 22, which is kind of really scary now because you sit back and think, oh my gosh, especially now I've got a daughter, I think, oh my gosh, that was such a big risk to play so early on in my life. But yeah, it's definitely paid off. It's definitely not all been easy. I had Hallie when I was 28 and basically decided around the time that I turned 30, so maybe it was a semi midlife crisis, but around the time that I just had all of those changes that happen when you become a mother, that I was going to redefine my business and basically take it in a completely different direction. So, as I said, I've never had a job, I've never worked in any other industry, but we introduced Reformer Pilates. We changed the way that we did kind of personal training from being kind of random classes and different methods to functional fitness and Reformer Pilates, yoga, and mat Pilates. And since then, I've gone on to now we have 5 sites. I have a team of over 35 instructors that work for me, and we are growing every single day. And there is not a day that goes by that I don't love what I do. I love the industry. Health and fitness is just everything. But wellness and being able to help people find their little happy space, whether that's, on a fat loss journey or a little moment from their busy day, and being able to now also help other people find their passion for training. So we also have a training academy now as well, where we train people to become Pilates instructors and reformer instructors too. So yeah, it's a busy one over here, but it's fantastic, and I do genuinely love every single minute.
And you have built such an incredible space, an incredible
Thank you.
business. And I mean, obviously we know each other personally, and I do and have visited a couple of your sites now for Studio
Yeah,
21, which is really, it's
we need to
incredible.
get like a little passport so that people can get their stamps when they've been
It's
to them.
just to go around,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
And just for our listeners, because I know I've got a
Mm.
lot of clients and a lot of listeners all around
Yeah.
counties here. Can you just let
Yes.
where your sites are?
Of course. So our first HQ is in Bedford. So we're based in Kempston in Bedford. We then have a site in Milton Keynes, Ampthill. We also have a site in Cambridge, in Toft, and then we have just announced our latest one, which is going to be in Olney or Olney, depending on whether you live there or not, which is just obviously on the outskirts of Milton Keynes. So yeah, that's our 5 locations.
Oh, amazing. But honestly, the passion that you have and what you've built is absolutely incredible. And I would love to
Thank you.
dive into a couple of questions today to really support
Yeah,
our
of course.
listeners, because I know you're such an incredible woman who has got the confidence, who's, built that courage and really followed your passion and your dream, which is just
Hmm.
fantastic. So, why don't we start off by talking a little bit about building your own path? I feel like this is something that we as women, I mean, men as well, of course, but we as women
Mm.
really want to go down the route of what does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's such a big thing because I think that so many people have this idea, don't they, or a burning desire to do different or to be different, but don't really know how to do it. And I genuinely think as well, there's a lot of like mindset work and a lot of like real deep burning desire to be different or to follow that path or to make a change, whichever one of those things kind of resonates with you the most. But for me, like following your path means that you don't want to do anything other than get to that destination, but you're really enjoying the journey to that destination. And actually, if you're not enjoying it and the only thing that's getting you there is the end goal,
Yeah.
that's not, you're not really going to be able to do that. So I think for me, I don't ever wake up on a day and think, oh, I don't want to teach today, or oh gosh, I've got a marketing call. Like I love everything that we do. So finding and following your path, I think you've got to really connect with your why. And I'm sure that so many people will understand what that means. But for me, that is all about being able to have something that I'm really proud of, because it would be really wrong to say that it's just easy and you have this idea and then the next day you have a business. My business is unrecognizable from what it was from when we began. So, that actually came through a process of really working on what my why was. What is the actual product and the methodology that I want people to be able to receive? What is the service that I want my customers to receive? What's the offering? How do I want people to feel? And that for me is what keeps me going every single day. And just being critical and being obsessed with all of the finer detail, that's going to continue to help you to grow day after day after day, rather than just thinking, when I make 100,000, that's it, I'm done. Because it doesn't happen like that, does it? Because if you're just set on the goal, whether that's financial, whether that's time freedom, whether it's to achieve something, if you don't enjoy the process, that goal kind of can feel quite empty. So I always think like my journey, my path never feels very linear. It always feels very much like ups, downs, lefts and rights, taking turns that I never expected us to do. But if you're constantly attached to the why you're doing it and the methodology behind it and what you want your customers to experience, you'll be absolutely fine. You'll get there. And when you get there, you'll think, oh, I thought I was done. But actually, this is just a moment in my story. So that's really special.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the fact that you say that, the pathway isn't linear, because I don't know anyone whose
No.
path has been linear at all. And it is, like you say, it has its ups and downs. You're going to have your challenges,
Mm.
your worries, your fears. There's so many
Oh my
different
gosh,
things.
so many.
Yeah. So
So many.
how does like sort of connecting to that, how does
Mm.
confidence and courage then fit into this? So if people have got their own pathway that they really want to follow through with, or to, to follow their passion,
Yeah.
how do they manage and build this confidence and courage?
So again, I just think it comes back to knowing what you are and who you are and what you want. There is nothing more for me that makes me want to be better every single day than knowing that I'm the only person who's going to make that happen. If I don't know how to do it, then I'll find a way of learning how to, or finding someone to help me get there. So I think let's start with confidence first. When you hear of it sometimes, don't you, of like the best things are replicated.
Yeah.
You can always learn from other people. We live in a world now where people put their best kept secrets out on social media. Like if your weakness is marketing, for example, just go and become obsessed with marketing on TikTok, on Instagram, learn something, try it. Just become obsessed with the small details, and then you'll start to see that your confidence grows, because the more educated and awareness that you have of your weaknesses, the more that they become no longer your weaknesses and they're just like middle grounds. And then the more of those kind of like middle grounds that you have, your strengths become even stronger because you have the confidence to be able to push yourself stronger. So I think let's take a hairdresser, for example, as maybe quite relatable. But, lots of the hairdressers that I'm friends with or that I know will say, oh, I'm just really rubbish at social media. You don't need to be good at social media, but if you know you're not very good at it, you're going to have less of that worry of oh, I'm not very confident in social media, and you deal with that. So then you're gaining that confidence through that. And I think that confidence and courage kind of come in the same sentence, don't they? Because you have to have courage to know that you're not the finished article as well. How many times do I speak to people and they're like, oh, but I don't know how to do that. I'm like, cool, make mistakes, right? Like, just be okay with showing up and making mistakes. No one is the finished article. I'm unrecognizable from the person I was this time last year, let alone 5 years ago. And I think that it's really interesting, isn't it? Because what we do now, especially with like female founders, personal branding, we all share the good, but actually showing and showcasing the lessons, the learnings, when things have gone wrong. Like one of my sites at the moment is really hard, but we're documenting that because actually things being hard is normal. So have the courage to know that asking questions, knowing that you're not the final article, and everything that you're doing day to day, hour to hour is only going to help you bridge the gap between the courage and the confidence, is kind of how I'd say it. You're never ever going to know every single answer and you're never going to be able to do everything on your own. But if you know every single detail of your business, you will know what answers you're looking for. And if you can't answer them yourself, you'll be able to find somebody who can. And I think that's the strength in having the confidence and the courage to be able to do both of those things.
Yeah, so being able to identify the gaps or
100%.
the weaknesses, but the areas that need development, and then go
And
and
we
find that support.
Yeah, because look, how many opportunities do we have on a regular basis to network, to connect with people? I take so much pride in sharing, wow, well done. If I see another female founder on Instagram that's done something, share the fact that you've done that. Or if they're asking for help, share because you never know when you're going to need it. And actually, there's something really beautiful in being able to strengthen your craft by sharing the knowledge that you have. Because actually, the more open that we all are to what's helped us get to where we are, just like this podcast, for example, it's only going to enable you to feel more confidence in what you're good at. So it's a real scary one, isn't it? Like I'm sure that you remember it, the first time you ever open yourself up for criticism. But actually, if you do that, you're going to get better, which is going to build your confidence. I always remember when I first ever started like on social media way back when, like 2015. It was on Facebook. Instagram wasn't even a thing. And I remember I was using like a WordPress blog and I was like blogging, just doing a little article about what was going on. And I just loved expressing what was going on within my life and kind of within business and the thoughts and feelings I'd had and what kind of got me to the place that I was now. And I remember someone that I went to school with kind of messaged me and was like, you really shouldn't share so openly, like it'll upset people. And I remember thinking, no, that's because you're kind of consuming that content from yourself. But at the time, it really affected me. But it really helped me to grow the confidence to just be like, actually, if I want to show up like this, I can, right? And I can be that version of myself. But the only person that's going to get you to that next stage of confidence or courage is yourself. So it's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because I wish I could say, like, do this, do this, do this, but you've just got to step yourself out of your comfort zone. I love the term 1% better every day because I just think if we can apply ourselves 1% more every day, it doesn't feel very big at the day, but every month that goes by, over 25%, that little bit better every single month. That's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is. 1% better every day. I love it. And just really leaning into
Mm,
that. Everything that you've said is just, of great value and support for our listeners. And I think something that I want to touch on today as well is the business that you've built. It isn't just a business or service. It is an entire community. You have built such a beautiful, well-connected community.
thank you.
Why is that so important when we're looking at sort of a pathway to success?
Yeah, okay. I think to talk about community, we have to start with something that if anyone has ever listened to anything that I talk about on podcast, this comes up a lot. Community at the moment is a marketing buzzword. So everyone's talking about, I need to build a community. I need to build a community. Let's just remember, if your community has to be authentic. So you have to know why you're doing that. So it all comes back again to the why, right? And I opened my first ever studio because I wanted people to have a place to train in a way that wasn't accepted within the health and fitness industry. I wanted, as a customer, to be able to go to legs, bums, and tums every single day if I wanted to. Whereas in leisure centres, they were only on like a Wednesday morning for the older ladies and maybe a Saturday morning because that was a time when it was a popular class. I wanted to redefine the way that that was, and I wanted people to meet new people, make new friends. I wanted people to be able to access good quality classes at an affordable price rather than having to go to London and do like that really good spin class, or I had to be a member of one of the really big leisure centres to even be able to have a spin class. So that is why my community is so authentic because it came from my heart. It isn't just a case of we have a community because that now sells and that's how people then stay invested in our service. The things that we do for our community are because I always stay true to the reason why we started in the first place. So we do quarterly events for all our members. We work with big brands to do things like that. I mean, we ran an event that you came to. It was so beautiful, wasn't it? But we run events with like local businesses just because we can. Like, how lovely. And to give people an opportunity to connect beyond the surface of a spin class. We have people who have like met each other like romantically through the studio. We've got people who have become best friends. I met my best friend through the studio, just because it's almost like-minded people coming together that maybe share the interest or the same kind of ways or wants and needs of their life. So that's kind of my real rooted, and I think I have to share that before I kind of say what I have to say next, because it doesn't really make sense unless I give you that kind of real good solid foundation of what my beliefs on the community are. But if we're now talking about that like bigger level of how that can really help you on your pathway, whether you call it a community or whether you call it like a brand purpose or like a reason why people are engaging with your brand is a feeling. So you imagine going into a coffee shop, for example, the girl behind the counter's on her phone, she doesn't look up at you, she takes her order, she passes the kind of the card machine to you, tap, she passes her coffee and then next customer. Or you go into a coffee shop where they're like, oh, hi, they know your name, they remember that you came in last week. They ask you how, I don't know, say last week you were with your nan, how your nan was, did she enjoy her cake? And you're like, oh my gosh. All of a sudden, you're selling a feeling that's going to make that person come back again because you've taken potentially 20% more effort than what the person did at the beginning. But you're just doing that little bit more. That person's got a feeling that they're not going to forget that. They're going to potentially forget how much the coffee cost. They'll maybe forget about where the location was, but they're not going to forget that connection. So actually, I think the community part becomes a buzzword, but actually it's the connection that we sell that is so much better. We have tech that could run our business without a human, but I don't even want to like ridiculous amounts of money on humans to make that connection happen. So you do a first class with us and a human follows you up and says, "Hey, how was it? What happened? How did you find it? Let me help you." Because we don't get that anymore. So actually then you're getting that feeling, and that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about that feeling and making people feel supported and nurtured. And this is where when businesses cut corners, it's actually the customer service which makes community happen, not the fact that you just have loads of people that are like-minded. You need to give them something to be involved in to make the community. But what you're doing is if you then do that, you're then building a group of people who share the same morals as you, right? And then they're going to be your best advocates because they've had a good experience and they're going to then tell somebody else. So whether that's a coffee shop, a hairdresser's, a gym, whatever it is, that personality and communication and service is everything to set you above the rest.
Yeah, that's such valuable information, and great to kind of really look at it at that, from that aspect, because again, that community it should be kind of the central focal point of exactly what you're doing and why you're here to support people, help people.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the service that people have. But yeah, an incredible way to look at it. Absolutely.
It's just getting so much more competitive though, isn't it? In whatever industry you're in, there's multiple services of the same industry. So you have to set yourself above the rest. And I always think that there's kind of like three pillars that you can look at. You can be like really, really good at your job. So you're like, well, they don't compare. So they're better, you're better skilled, better educated, however, whatever your skill set is. But you're like that. It could be your price point, whether that's a higher or a lower price point, or it's the service. And I actually think that the service part is actually the easiest bit if you really care to nail, because you can invest in your product consistently over time. Your price point can move over time depending on what that looks like, but the service you can nail yourself, even if you're a one woman, one man band. Nail that and people will continue to keep coming back.
Yeah, amazing. And that's what you want. You want people coming back and your name
100%.
to be referred and pushed out there.
100%.
Yeah,
Mm,
amazing.
agree.
So I want to talk a little bit about balance because I think again, by creating your own pathway and building, everyone's
Yeah.
on their pathway to build their dream business and dream life, etc. I think balance is a really important thing for us to talk about. And you're obviously a mum. I know that a
Mm,
number
I
of our
am.
listeners are going to be mums as well. How
Yeah.
do you personally balance the demands of business and
Yeah.
obviously being a mum, motherhood? Because I think it's a really important topic.
I think it's a really important topic. And I think also before I delve into the how I do that, I think I'd just like to give my opinion on it a little bit because
Yeah.
I think that, well, as you can see, I have quite big opinions anyway, but I think that they're important to share. But I think something over the last, so Hallie's 4 in December. So I'm a mum to a young person. She's very little, and she's not in school yet or anything like that. So my juggle is quite insane. Um, but I think I would say over the last couple of years, especially with the rise in the wellness industry, hustle culture gets quite negatively spoken about. And I find that really, really challenging because I work hard and then add tax and more tax because I work so hard. And I actually think that we've come to a place now where that's frowned upon. And that makes me quite sad because when I speak to people and they're like, how do you do it? I'm like, you're not going to understand how I do it because you're not going to be willing to take yourself to that place where you're going to sacrifice so much stuff. So I think I juggle a lot, but it's because I want it so badly. I cannot explain that to you. Like, I say to people, this is what I do and this is what I do. And they're like, you feel every single hour of the day. You don't have a choice when you're a single mom who has a daughter to get to nursery, do a whole day's work between the hours of 8 and 3, not 9 and 5, 8 and 3, and then do pickup and then do after school, everything else, and then put her to bed. And then I go back to work. So I think that, yeah, I feel like this balance topic. I'll talk about how I balance things, but I feel like we need to make a space better. I think we as women we need to show up better because you have to be different. You have to be willing to sacrifice more. And if you're not willing to sacrifice more, that's okay. But understand that please don't diminish the ones that are doing that and
Mm.
say that they're not doing right because they're not at every rehearsal or they don't have a day with their child in the week or they've gone back to work full time. That's okay too. Yeah, like let's remember everyone's version
Yeah.
of balance is okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like that message needs to be louder because there are people out there that have no choice other than to work really super hard and balance isn't something that's maybe in their vocabulary. So for me, when someone says, why do? I do it because I know one day I'm going to have insane balance that they can only ever dream of. And that for me is what my why is. So I know that I remember back, like my mum and dad had businesses growing up, and my mum started like her final business when I was 13. And I remember thinking, when I then had Hallie, I remember thinking, gosh, my mum was never around when I was sort of like 13. She was working her absolute bum off. She was giving every hour under the sun. She was up early, late, like back home late. My grandparents had us 2 nights, oh, all the normal stuff that comes with working full time. And I remember thinking, I've got one chance with my one child to make this work for her. And I remember how much at some times in those teenage years I needed my mum. And I'm the oldest of three. And I remember thinking, I needed her at that disco, or I needed her before I went to my I don't know, my first sleepover in my new friend at upper school or whatever. And she wasn't able to do everything. As we all know, we have to make sacrifices. So I've always told myself that the younger, I know you're never going to get any chunk, are you, as a mum? You're never going to get any chunk back. So, I know I'm sacrificing these younger years, but I personally remember how much I needed my mum at a later stage because I do just think those teenage years are tough as a girl, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I kind of consistently every day go back to the fact that I work so hard when I have the chance to, so that when I'm not working, me and Hallie get the most incredible memories. And that for some people they don't get that, but it works for me. So, when we go on holiday, we go on lovely holidays. When we have days out, they're really extravagant. And that, when I say those things, it sounds like then it's just financially, but it's not. It's the fact that my cup gets filled up from the fact that I'm giving myself and my daughter an opportunity. And when we go on really lovely days out, that doesn't mean that it's some lavish thing to London all the time, but it genuinely can sometimes just look like the fact that we can go to Sainsbury's, pick what we want to have for a picky dinner, and go home and make a picky dinner and sit just us and watch a film. And I'm okay with staying still for a few hours. And then when she's gone to bed, it's straight back to it. But for me, there's something beautiful in just being able to say yes to her. And I know that if you're a mum, you'll know what I mean by that. But if she wants well, she's having a Gabby's Doll's House birthday this year, but whatever birthday party she wants, I want to be able to say, yeah, you can. And I'm going to make sure that it's everything that you possibly can have. So I think the other thing as well is I am financially driven. And I think, again, that's another thing that we don't talk about enough. That's okay, right? It's okay to be driven financially. And I'm the one that makes that happen. So if I can show her that to have what these lovely things that I can give you every now and again, you have to work like this to get that. That's not unrealistic then, is it? Because she's being exposed to what it takes to have what she wants. So I would genuinely say that's how I make balance happen. So I sacrifice a lot to gain a lot, and it is a really tough juggle. With that all being said, it's never easy. It's never, always a week where I go to bed thinking, oh my gosh, I've got so much mum guilt or I've got so much business guilt. Because let's be honest, that exists too, right? My business is my second child, or well, really my first child because it came first. But there's always something that I wish I could have done better. But that's what makes me grow, is that reflective mentality of how can I show up better for my business or my people in the business or my child or my family. And actually being okay with where I am right now isn't where I'm going to be in another 2 years' time. So if it's a constant improvement, I'm constantly going to get better at whatever management of whatever form of my life that looks like. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's a whole podcast, isn't it, in itself?
Oh,
But
it's brilliant. It's good to openly speak about it as well. And it's
mm,
great to hear your own perspective for this, because I think there's going to be a lot of listeners that are mums, and I think mum guilt, I mean, just touching on that aspect of,
yeah, exactly.
mum guilt is so real, and like you said, business guilt as well. One minute you're feeling guilty because you're doing your business or you're doing your emails or whatever people are doing in terms of business, and then you're feeling guilty being a mum and you're not spending that time, or more time, should we say, with children. And then the other
Yeah,
way around, it can work vice versa. But I think what you've said is really important for our listeners to really hear. Everyone is different and balance is different to everyone, and actually
everyone. Yeah.
how we use our time, how much time we spend with our children, if we are, mums or parents, etc. Just make the most of that time. And I love
Yeah, I think
what you
that's it.
do.
That's it. That's it. Make the most of that time and bring your children on the journey. If you
Yeah.
work for yourself, you have no boss that is going to tell you no, they can't come. Hallie comes to all our fitness events. She comes to all of our our things that we do, and she loves it. She is she relishes in it and she just gets it. So actually, if I'm creating a legacy and potentially a business one day that she's going to take over, then why can't she be part of that story and why can't she be part of that journey? Every day I take her to bed, and if she's being a little madam because she doesn't sleep and she's not sleeping, I say, I'll sit here, but I'm going to do my emails. And that normally sends her off to sleep because that's boring, isn't it? But, things like that, finding ways that you can kind of work alongside them. And I just think that the biggest thing that I ever found from growing up was seeing hard work in action. I saw my mum and dad graft to have what we did. So if I can give my daughter 10% of that, then she's going to be okay because it didn't do too much harm to me. There's always going to be someone, isn't there, says, oh, but you miss on this or you miss out on that. I don't ever feel like I miss out as such. I just think that as long as you're reflective,
Yes.
then it's okay. Do you know what I mean? And I think that reflective practice goes beyond just your own mentality. It also comes, should I have maybe done differently? Should I have rushed her out the door today? Could I have been more prepared because of this, this, and this? Yeah. And I get up early and I go to bed late. Sleeps, I don't know what that is really, but yeah, yeah, there's so much there, but hopefully that's helpful. And I hope that it gives a different perspective to maybe the norm of what balance looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great topic, a great thing to consider as well for everyone, in terms of balance. What does it look like to the
100%.
individual? Yeah. There's another question that I really want to dive into before
Yeah.
we wrap things up. And it's about self-belief, but also fear. I think as entrepreneurs, self-belief is huge. It's massive. We need to have that growth mindset. We need to be driven, motivated, determined, all of the things. But self-belief, I always think, is the root and the core of being successful. And I would love to get your perspective on this, that self-belief and really knowing that you can do it. I'm going to hand over to you
Yeah.
to see what you think of all.
Gosh. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, I probably have had to dig deep and find that so many times in my journey. So I would say that the first one was going for it. So I had to believe in myself more than anybody else could to kind of risk my life savings and open a business and, put my name above a door and teach 7 days a week and do all of those sorts of things. And I had to sit there and go, okay, if no one else believes in this and I don't build any team, am I going to be able to run this on my own? And the answer was, yeah, of course you are, because I had that belief in myself and I trusted the fact that I knew I was good enough on my own 2 feet to do that. So I think self-belief kind of can sometimes be taken incorrectly for like overconfidence, or kind of potentially a bit of arrogance, but actually it's how it becomes across, doesn't it? Because the people who have high levels of self-belief are the ones that actually probably do achieve, because you've got to champion yourself on those worst days. But if we add everything together that we've spoken about today, you've got to have self-belief, the courage, the confidence, and the opportunity to push beyond balance,
Mm.
sacrifice to make it happen. And I think that for me, self-belief has come in so many forms. I remember looking in the mirror once I'd had Hallie and thinking, I don't even recognize myself, but I knew deep down to the core of myself that I knew I would be able to find that again. I didn't know how to at the time, but I knew what it felt like, so I'd find it. Same way with kind of taking the risk and going all in. We had to get through COVID. I had to have self-belief at that point. And for me, it's like deep determination and that like real ability to push further than you even thought was possible. And I think as well, like self-belief comes with being so obsessed with the finer stuff, doesn't it? And being so obsessed with it that it's all you think about, it's all you go to bed thinking about. And I sometimes question at times, like sometimes I have meetings with people or maybe conversation with people, and I walk away and thinking, you're gonna think I'm nuts. Because like the amount of self-belief I have or the amount of obsession about my business that I have is like quite scarily loads more than others.
Mm.
Um, but maybe that's why we do okay, and maybe that's why we've kind of made it through some really difficult storms, because actually I will be here until the last part of it, to make sure that it is the best version of itself. Um, so yeah, that's something I feel so passionate about. If you can't believe in yourself, you can't also sell the fact that anyone else is going to believe in you, right? You are your best product in business. And if you've got a team of people that work for you, they're looking at you when things go wrong. How is she presenting herself? How is she finding things? And I find being honest with the struggles are real hard, because I sometimes think that they show too much of a weakness. But actually being open and honest about, I know we can do this, but I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z right now. Seek help, seek support, grow with confidence over that. You will find it and you will get there. But I think it comes from celebrating the wins as well, doesn't it? Like it might be that you get your first 10 customers. Have the belief you got 10 customers. It's 10 more than you had last week. So
I
yeah, I
celebrate.
think yeah, absolutely. And find people that you kind of really relate to that are doing well in that and do that kind of self-belief thing well. I sometimes get an element of, I don't like the term imposter syndrome, but I sometimes doubt myself a little bit when I go to put quite bold statements out on social media, because I think, oh God, like, the people are going to look at me and go, well, you're not Grace Beverly, or you're not like this person or that person. But I think, well, I'm doing more than a normal person is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I can just inspire or support or give someone that opportunity, it's all of the content and the information that I wish I had 5 years ago. So it's almost saying, well, if I can, even if you're not self-driven by that self-belief, if I can help somebody else by just sharing that nugget of advice, it's going to give you a little bit more belief to believe that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Self-belief is so important. It is absolutely at the core, at the center. And I love that you
Mm,
said, a couple of times today that it is about that obsession as well, and being obsessed with the vision, the mission,
everything.
ultimately everything that you're doing. And like you said, all the tiny details. It goes hand in hand, doesn't it? That self-belief, that obsession with exactly what you're doing and you're building. Because at the end of the day, if we're not obsessed with what we're doing and we haven't got the self-belief, we're not going to create
No,
that.
and I no, and I look at like the life that I had and the version of myself that I was in business before I had Hallie, and I was so comfortable and I was so like, yeah, do a bit of that or try that. I didn't have that real obsession. And actually, when I reflect on it, it was because I wasn't actually that obsessed with the product that we were delivering. I was quite embarrassed by it, really. Hence, then the need to change and transform what we were doing. But I think if you're not obsessed with it, then you need to look internally as to why are you not your biggest fan? Because if
Yeah.
you're not your biggest fan, let's go really like psychological now. But if you are having those negative thoughts about your own business, your own product, or you're being like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to switch off at 2 o'clock today. Anything that comes in there, I'll answer in 3 days' time. I kind of then start to sit there and go, okay, they've probably also contacted another 3 or 4 different versions of you, because there's, like we've said already on the podcast, there's 5. That every market now is saturated. So if you're not the first one to respond and you don't have the most passionate response and you kind of don't do the best of your ability every single time, I just think if you're not obsessed, like you just said it so well, but if you're not obsessed, you're not going to win. You're just not. You might just be okay. And being okay is okay. But if you're wanting to be in that top 10%, you've got to act differently. You've got to act how 90% of the people aren't willing to act, basically.
100%. Stand out. Be you. Be iconic, as I say, and just
Be
really go.
bold. Yeah, just go for it. I know. And I think that's why we connect so well, isn't it? Because I just think there's so little of us now that are willing to be bold and brave and kind of be like ballsy with it. There's a real fine line, isn't there? And I'm a massive feminist when it comes to the fact that we deserve to be on the same tables as men are. But unfortunately, there's very few of us that are willing to sit there and own ourselves like what men do. So the bigger and the bigger and the quicker that we are to take up that space and own those spaces and those conversations, then things start to move, because then you get taken seriously by the other 50% of the population as well as the females. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, what a great conversation. I know we could talk
So
about
good.
so long, but
So
I want to
long.
finish off with your final piece of advice for our listeners today. What would it be?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm just going to repeat some of my absolute key moments, I think, because I think they're the best ones to go away. And when I'm finding things really super tough, I always think back to these. So I always reflect back about the 1% every day. Maybe I haven't got 20% in me today, but if I've got 1%, then I'm on the right path. I also always love the one when that kind of moment where you feel really close to giving up. I always sit there at that point and think, if I gave up in 5 years' time, how much will I regret that?
Mm,
Sometimes it's actually thinking about what the version of me, if I do give up, looks like, rather than the work person that pushes through. And then also remembering when you have pushed through something and you feel okay after it, of like, just remember how amazing it feels to overcome something that once was a fear. Um, that's huge as well.
love
So
that.
yeah,
Oh, amazing takeaways. Georgia, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the
thank
podcast.
you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Where can all of our listeners find you and connect with you?
Super simple everywhere, but just Georgia Testa with an A. Yeah, we like to keep it nice and simple. So we run all of my personal socials, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn is just straight up Georgia Testa. And then if you want to look at the business, it's Studio 281 with an underscore. Again, the same across all platforms. We're on YouTube. We document the journey there. We document, the funny, the highs and the lows of kind of running a business as a female founder on my personal Instagram. And then you can kind of see the product and the business itself on the studio.
Oh, amazing. Go and connect with Georgia. All of the links are in the show notes. So go and check her out. She's incredible at what she does. And if you're in the local area, go and visit one of the studios. They're amazing.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you, and I hope it was super helpful. It's so nice, isn't it, when you hear from a listener that kind of tells you this was this. So please do message if there is anything. It's so nice to connect.
It's been a pleasure, darling. Thank you so much for coming on.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks to everyone that's tuned into today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream six-figure or multi-six-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.